This is TWiT.
What does updating the Verge's background policy mean, Stacey?
Wait, what?
Oh, I like this story. So The Verge published a thing saying, hey, we're ethical. This is how we're trying to be ethical. And it's all about on background, which is what companies do when they want to tell you information that they want you to print, but they don't want to be credited with it.
It's kind of a way of manipulating the story,
It's
right?
waffly. Yeah.
Oh, it's worse than that. I think it's
it's
worse than that. I think it's spin.
It is. True. It is spin. So when and the thing is, it used to be for like true sources. Like I used to have people who, and sometimes those people did work for competitors, but sometimes people will go on background because they want you to have context for something, but they don't want to have it.
Yeah, sometimes it could be
sort of
informational, but it's really up to the reporter to sift through the spin to get to the facts.
And it is your responsibility when someone gives you something on background. You don't just print it. You go check it out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what happens is spokespeople from companies tend to go on background to tell you things like, I'll say something about like, we'll just use Amazon because they do this a lot.
Product A.
Talk about like, this product is behaving weird. Or actually, I've gotten this like, this product is behaving weird and I don't understand why it's doing this. And they're like, well, on background, we're going to issue an update.
But you can't print that. Or can you? Can you say, I've been told by company sources? No, you can't even say that.
You can say,
boy.
I found that, or I hear there's going to be background, like an update.
I've heard.
But yeah,
it's kind of weird. So The Verge says more than one big company, and I know one big company in particular that does this, insists on holding product briefings on background with no attribution, which means no one can properly report what company executives say about their own new products during marketing events. We know exactly what company does that. A big tech company PR person emailed us, this is just stupid, emailed us a link to the company's own website on background. That's just dope. That's just useless. That's like that person just is useless. A food delivery company insisted on discussing the popularity of chicken wings on background. By the way, this is one of the reasons, actually one of the primary reasons I never talk to PR people. Because I don't want to have to sift through that in my head. It's easier for me not to know it than to figure out if it's guff or if it's genuine, valuable stuff. And as a result, I miss out. I don't do Apple briefings, so I miss out on a lot of maybe some factual stuff.
PR.
But I also miss out on a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
I get a lot of fluff, but there's probably 4 PR people that I really enjoy hearing from.
And so this is important too. At TWiT, I don't have a policy for you. You get to do whatever you want. Jason gets to do whatever he wants. Micah gets to do whatever they want. I have, just because I've been in this business so way too long and I'm too old and cranky, I don't like loners. I don't want to talk to PR. I've spent way too many hours at lunches with people. I just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I'm pretty much right there with you. The 4 PR people that I enjoy,
some good ones. Yeah.
They know, all right, Ant's going to dig this. Here we go. This is the information.
And as a result.
And it works.
Yeah, and I get the benefit, frankly, of having you, Micah, and Jason around because you guys do that.
Right.
And I don't have to deal with it.
Because I hate embargoes.
I don't do embargoes, and I don't do NDAs. Embargoes. I haven't done them in more than a decade.
They're so hard, especially when it's juicy.
Most reporters don't do NDAs. I mean, I've never signed an NDA.
Yeah.
Even like sometimes when you show up to a company, they're like, sign our NDA. You're like, hi, I'm with the media. I'm not going to do that.
I don't take questions. I don't say I'll submit questions to you. I don't let them know what questions I'm going to ask. I don't take the questions they suggest.
What about clearing? This is a cultural difference. Clearing quotes.
Yes, they don't have to do that.
Because I say we won't do that. But in Germany, it is standard procedure to call and clear the quotes.
I don't think it's unreasonable if you are quoting somebody to call, not to clear them, but just to make sure you're quoting it accurately. Of course, you've got your notes.
I think it's absolutely right to get this. Did I get this right?
Yes.
But in this day of digital recording, is that even necessary? People record phone calls and conversations on some type of digital recorder all the time, right?
And it gives them the opportunity to change it when they realize they said something stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. You never want to clear quotes with people if you can avoid it. and you can absolutely avoid it. I will call people and run by
for clarification
if I haven't done it in an interview.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use like a metaphor because, it's tech reporting. So I'm like, it's like when you have a stack of pancakes, I'll run my metaphor by them sometimes just to make sure that it's decent.
You clear the metaphors? You clear the metaphors?
Is she okay? She just said pancakes instead of waffles.
So this is what's different about what we do from what you do, Jeff. Because when you're doing tech reporting, your primary part of your job is communicating complex stuff to non-technical people.
So you break it down.
So you'd use metaphors, and you want to just make sure you're not using a metaphor that's misrepresenting the actual technical fact.
Pixels are like a waffle. I can hear Stacey.
There we go. That sounds better.
I actually use baking a lot. Like when I talk about semiconductor manufacturing, I'm like, semiconductor manufacturing is like baking a layer cake. Throw in a big batch of cake, then you scoop out some of it, then you put more frosting in.
You just don't want to make, say, a metaphor that makes sense to you, but in fact is misrepresenting the technology.
I'd say it's more like a Napoleon. Maybe a lasagna.
But sometimes cybersecurity is notorious for this. Sometimes you come up with a metaphor that you think rocks, and then they're like, well, no, it's more like this. And a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'm not doing this with the PR person. I'm doing it with like the tech
the engineer. Look, our goal is the same, which is we want to accurately communicate the information without fear or favor. And so to the degree that you want to be accurate, I think it's appropriate to ask. But we don't want to give them the chance to say, no, please don't say that, because that would hurt my feelings or my boss would get mad.
Yeah.
Now this one happens.
They're doing it a lot more.
Oh yeah.
They're coming in.
They're empowered, baby. Oh yeah.
I have people in my interviews. They're like, "Hey, can you take that off the record?"
I hate that.
No.
Well,
too late.
I don't have that.
If I may have a historic moment, I was at People Magazine when that shift occurred. The People Magazine started. It was all about the top stars or top shows. And if you had a Dallas is number one, you put Dallas on the cover, Dallas sells. And then one day I remember my boss screaming down the hall because I was the TV critic, TV's dead, Jarvis is dead, because the cover hadn't sold. Because now we had more competition, because now what mattered was the event in the star's life. And so the flack became uber important, because now we needed the star's face to sell the magazine. And the Flacks knew that. And so they would say, no, we want reporter approval, quote approval, photo approval, cover guarantee, all this stuff. And they threw their weight around quite a bit because they controlled the commodity that mattered. We controlled the commodity that mattered in the old days, the audience. Now, to get the audience, we needed the commodity they controlled, which was the access to the star.
Is it okay for these people to say off the record versus on background? Because I'm assuming there's a nuanced difference there. I'm not a journalist, so that's why I'm asking.
Do you do off the record stuff, Stacey? You do, don't you?
I do only for people I know and trust.
Right.
Okay.
And again, same thing.
And even then, I bet you limit it
everything.
To certain. What do you think is a legitimate? Let me ask you this, Stacey. What's a legitimate use of off the record?
I've had people try to get me to investigate pay disparities or treatment issues.
When Deep Throat meets you in a garage and says you really need to follow the money.
Well, if someone tells you something and they're going to give you internal memos, sometimes if they're HR memos, I will take those off the record. Or in those cases, I will run things like quote approvals by them.
Right.
Because this is personnel.
There are things you need to be more careful of. I think that's smart. Yeah.
So you can be off the record if you're a valid source, and putting you on the record hurts you.
Here's a challenging one, and this is another one The Verge brings up. Multiple big tech companies, and I would say this is common practice in politics and other areas too, insist on having PR staffers quoted as, quote, sources familiar with the situation, even though they're paid spokespeople.
Politicians do this all the time too, and regulatory agencies. So that's something that I was stunned at when I first started reporting about politics, but it's crept into tech.
Yep.
It's super stupid, super frustrating. And the only reason people do it is for access.
Yeah. So what is their new policy? Anyway, it's actually worth reading. Even if you're not a journalist, I would suggest going to theverge.com and reading this, because it's interesting to hear all the manipulations that tech companies more than ever have started using We covered a story, and remember the car company that said we're going to only, what did they say? We're only going to do electric vehicles from now on. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, the Volkswagen.
They were going to rename themselves from Volkswagen to Volkswagen.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't April 1st.
They mentioned this. A major car company's head of communications told us an April Fool's joke was actually real on background. So that was the sneaky thing. On background, the joke obviously was a joke. It wasn't real. But on background, so that's nasty.
Stupid.
That's nasty.
Yeah. When people do, like, what are you going to do with that? You're like, oh, well.
Well, you're going to believe them. And then you're going to get bit.
So, by the way, this is a really good use of. Sorry, I'm looking at Twitter right now. I hope you'll forgive me for this.
No, it's okay. We know you've already
but I
tweeted
do it
about
for the
6
show.
times during the show. I've counted.
If you go to top articles and then go to conversation, the first thing under my list is the Verge policy, and you
Mine
get
too.
really good tweets.
Yep.
That are very relevant to that discussion.
I think this is a great use for Twitter. This is
That's
new
awesome.
and improved Twitter. I'm glad that they're doing this.
Have you ever
Anyway,
had Tony Hale on, by the way?
no, I'd love to. Maybe we
Tony's
did
hilarious.
in years gone by. We probably have, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what The Verge is saying. This is bad. So we're going to reset these expectations as loudly as possible. This is really a message to the tech companies and their PR firms. From now on, the default for communications professionals and people speaking to The Verge in an official capacity will be on the record.
Do it.
No more background, no more off the record.
Well, no, read the next paragraph.
But we will still honor some requests to be on background, but at our discretion and only for specific reasons that we can articulate to readers.
That should have been the case always. That
dig
used to
that.
be the case in journalism.
I think what happens is you just kind of gradually fall into this because you're a person and these are people and you want to be nice to people. And
That's why I don't talk to them, because I don't want to be
being a
nice.
reporter's hard.
I don't want. Honestly, I'm a people pleaser.
It's true.
And if I know these people, it's bad for me because I'll try. I'll go.
You try
I
to protect
I
them.
can't criticize Microsoft. I like that guy. I love Chris Capicella, and but that's the problem. He's their chief marketing officer. He's a great guy, but I don't want to let that make me be nice to Microsoft. And good journalists, Paul Thurrott's and Mary Jo Forley, a really good example.
Yeah.
They know all these people, and they are completely willing to be very critical of Microsoft.
Yeah.
I really respect that.
Yeah.
When I started Entertainment Weekly, I tried to have a policy, but I didn't last long enough to keep it in place. I tried to have a policy that would forbade critics from doing features on stars and productions because they were to be an independent critic there as the eyes and voice and
That's fair.
font of the audience, not to become buddy-buddy with the stars. But it didn't work. Soon after I left, it all gets incestuous as hell.
So this new policy was written by Nilay Patel, and I could just see
A lawyer.
Nilay, knowing him very well. I could just see him
He's a
finally
lawyer,
just getting,
right?
yeah, and just getting so fed up with this BS that he finally said, "Look, I'm writing this, and you're publishing it, and this is our new policy. Done." But I have to say, this has been our policy here since day one. It's been my policy
has
since
it?
I started doing this in the 90s. I don't do background. I don't do any of this stuff. I don't do off the
That's
record.
you, but do your employees have I found it interesting that you said you didn't have like a company where you don't tell them what to do, but I feel like
I
every
trust
media
them.
organization has to have a standard.
I'm very clear to them about what I do, and that is kind of the ethos of what we do. And I trust them to do it right. If we were a bigger organization, there's only 4 of us staff hosts. If we were a bigger organization, certainly we did at Tech TV. Jim Latterback wrote up a very clear policy I completely respect and still adhere to. But I trust them. And if ever, by the way, and you'll vouch for this, and if I think if a line's been crossed, I will let them know.
Yep.
I will.
You're not going for scoops as so much as commentary and content.
As well as Miss Lisa.
We
She
can
will
do.
too.
Yeah, the reason we can do this is because we have we're not publishing 3 months in advance, so we don't, and we're not on, but that's, by the way, where we don't have, well, I can't say we always don't. I don't ever have advanced products. I know sometimes Jason, for instance, had a Pixel 6 on embargo. I don't want to get in the way of his ability to do what he considers to be his job. And we're certainly forthright about that when that happens. After the fact, when Jason, during our Pixel 6 announcement, goes, "Oh, and I have one," we're very clear. "Oh, yeah, I've had this for 5 days, and they sent it to me," and blah blah blah. that comes more from my point of view that this is not a traditional editorial entity where, I'm the boss and we have employees, but I think of it more of a collegial consortium of people. And even the staff hosts, I don't want to treat them any differently than I do you and Jeff, for instance. I don't say to you, Stacey, here's our policy, don't violate it, because you don't work for me. You're a contract employee, and I trust you. You wouldn't be on the show if I thought there were going to be an issue with that. And there certainly are people we do not let on our air for that reason.
I was going to say, I'm getting a kickback on every slipper sold.
If I thought that were true, I would say, oh, well,
she has a waffle empire.
I said, let me in on that.
Oh, that's true, in my waffle empire.
No, I think people know that's one of the things that. But I don't think we have to put it in writing. I don't know. I don't think we have.
I don't think so. I believe all of us here, we have a set of moral standards, if you will. We don't want to be. I believe the term is on the take.
Yeah, we have a
compass. I used to hear a lot.
Yeah, we have a moral compass.
Moral compass.
Yeah.